Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling insomnia, but specifically the different types.
Yeah, it's actually pretty fascinating.
I know our listeners are looking to understand the various ways insomnia shows up, get a clearer picture of this sleep disorder we all talk about so much.
And we've got a great article from Healthline to break it all down. It's called What Are the Different Types of Insomnia?
Oh, that's a really straightforward title.
Right to the point.
Yeah. I got a sneak peek at the article, and there were some things that surprised me. There's a type of insomnia just for kids.
There is. And get this, one type is actually linked to worrying about not getting enough sleep.
Oh, the irony.
It's a vicious cycle. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics.
Okay, so insomnia.
Mm.
I mean, most people have a general idea that it involves trouble sleeping, but what's the actual clinical definition?
Well, insomnia is a sleep disorder, and it makes it hard to fall asleep, stay asleep, or both. It's way more common than you might think, affecting 10 to 15% of all adults. Yeah, but that number jumps even higher if you look at women going through postmenopause or older adults.
So it's not just about feeling tired. It can affect your energy during the day.
Absolutely. Like how refreshed you feel even after, quote unquote, a full night's sleep.
So it's both the quality and quantity of sleep.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Now, let's dive into the different types because this Healthline article breaks them down really nicely. Shall we start with acute insomnia?
Sure. I know the term acute means sudden, so is this like the short-term variety?
You got it. It typically lasts anywhere from 3 to 14 days. It's also sometimes called adjustment insomnia.
Oh, because it usually pops up after some stressful event.
Exactly. Think like a death in the family or even starting a new job, those kinds of things.
Those are definitely relatable stressors.
Mm.
Are there other causes beyond those big life events, though?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Things like jet lag, sleeping in a new place, even physical discomfort. Those can trigger it. It's basically your body reacting to a temporary disruption.
So it's kind of like your sleep is out of whack for a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but once the stressor is gone or you adapt to the change, the insomnia usually resolves itself.
Exactly. Most of the time, yeah.
That's good to hear. But what happens if the sleep troubles, they stick around for a lot longer?
Well, then we move into the territory of chronic insomnia.
Okay. And that's when the sleep issues last for at least 3 nights a week for like 3 months or longer.
You nailed it.
3 months, that's a long time.
It is, and unfortunately, it affects about 10% of the population. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more nuanced. Chronic insomnia can be either primary, meaning it develops on its own, or secondary, meaning it happens alongside another condition.
So I'm guessing secondary chronic insomnia is probably more common since so many health issues can impact sleep.
You're right, it is more prevalent. And yeah, there's a whole slew of conditions that can contribute. Chronic illnesses like diabetes, Parkinson's, hyperthyroidism, you name it.
It's not just about stress then, as a lot of people might assume. It's so much more complex than that.
Exactly. And then we have to consider mental health conditions too, like anxiety, depression, even ADHD and PTSD. They can all play a role.
So we've got physical health, mental health.
Yeah.
Are there any other lifestyle factors that we need to be mindful of?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Things like frequent travel, all that jet lag, shift work, even excessive napping can throw things off. And then, of course, there are the usual suspects, alcohol, nicotine, and other drugs.
They can definitely mess with your sleep.
Absolutely.
So it seems like there's a lot of interconnectedness here, so many different pieces of the puzzle. Now, I know the article delves even deeper into chronic insomnia. It talks about these 2 specific subtypes, onset insomnia and maintenance insomnia. What's the difference?
So onset insomnia is the classic I can't fall asleep problem. It can be short-term or chronic, and it's often tied to psychological or psychiatric factors. Stress, anxiety, depression, the usual.
So if your mind is racing, it's hard to just shut off and drift off.
Yeah.
Are there any physical conditions associated with onset insomnia?
Yeah, there are. A study from back in 2009 actually found that people with onset insomnia often have other sleep disorders, like restless leg syndrome. And of course, caffeine or other stimulants can make it harder to fall asleep.
That makes sense. So if onset insomnia is all about falling asleep, then maintenance insomnia is about staying asleep.
You got it. It's trouble staying asleep or waking up too early and not being able to fall back asleep.
It's the worst, waking up at 3 a.m. and then staring at the ceiling.
Oh, I know it. It can be really rough. And then, of course, you start worrying about not getting enough sleep, which just makes it harder to fall back
It's
asleep.
like a vicious cycle.
Exactly. And depression can also contribute to maintenance insomnia, as can certain physical conditions like GERD, sleep apnea, asthma, even restless leg syndrome.
So it seems like there's a lot of overlap between onset and maintenance insomnia, both in terms of like the causes and just the distress they can cause.
Absolutely. And that just highlights how insomnia is rarely straightforward. It underscores why it's so important to get professional help if it's affecting your daily life.
Now, we've talked a lot about insomnia in adults, but can kids experience these sleep problems too?
They definitely can. In fact, up to 30% of kids experience a type of insomnia called behavioral insomnia of childhood, or BIC. It's actually quite common.
30%. That's a big number. So what are the signs of BIC? Like, how is it different from the types of insomnia we've been talking about?
So BIC is usually categorized into three subtypes. The first one is sleep onset BIC. It's often linked to specific bedtime conditions that were established in childhood, like needing to be rocked to sleep or having a parent present.
Right. So these are the kids who like need a particular ritual or comfort object to fall asleep. What about the other subtypes?
Well, the second one is called limit setting BIC. That's where the child actively resists bedtime. They're stalling with requests for drinks, bathroom breaks, more stories, anything to delay going to sleep.
I know those kids.
And finally, there's combined type BIC, which is, as you might guess, a mix of both sleep onset and limit setting behaviors.
So the child might need a parent in the room to fall asleep, but then also try to delay bedtime with a million requests.
Yeah, basically. And while it can be exhausting for parents, the good news is that BIC usually responds really well to behavioral changes, like establishing consistent sleep routines or teaching relaxation techniques.
That's really reassuring to hear. Now, we've covered a lot of ground here, but I'm curious about the broader impacts of insomnia. We know it makes you tired, but are there any other, like, health risks associated with it?
That's a really important question, and the answer is yes. Chronic insomnia can have a pretty significant impact on both your physical and mental health.
Like what? What are some of the lesser-known risks?
Well, for starters, it can impact your daytime functioning. So that means decreased performance at work or school, and it increases the risk of accidents because of fatigue.
Yeah.
And then it's been linked to a higher likelihood of developing depression or other mental health issues.
I knew insomnia wasn't good, but I didn't realize the potential consequences could be that serious.
And it doesn't stop there.
Mm.
Chronic insomnia can also increase your risk of developing some pretty serious chronic conditions like heart disease, stroke, even metabolic syndrome.
So it's not just about being tired and grumpy. It's about, like, jeopardizing your overall health.
That's exactly right. And that's why it's so important to take insomnia seriously and get help if it's affecting your quality of life. The good news is there are a variety of treatment options out there, and understanding the type of insomnia you're dealing with can really help guide you to the right approach.
And that leads us perfectly into the next part of our deep dive, exploring those treatment options in more detail.
Well,
So glad to be back, and I'm really excited to dive even deeper into this whole world of insomnia because I feel like we've only just started.
we have.
And you know me, I'm always up for a good sleep related conversation.
Always.
But I'm especially interested in, like how understanding these different types of insomnia can actually empower us to take control of our sleep.
Oh, absolutely.
Like what can we actually do with this information?
That's the key, right? It's not just about knowing the definitions, it's about turning that knowledge into action.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're having trouble falling asleep and you think you might have onset insomnia,
Right.
understanding the potential causes can really help you target your efforts,
Mhm.
So whether it's managing stress or addressing something like restless leg syndrome or even just cutting back on caffeine,
Yeah.
knowing where to focus your energy can make a world of difference.
It's like having a roadmap instead of just wandering around in the dark.
Yeah.
But what if you've tried those initial steps and you're still struggling?
Right.
What other strategies are out there?
Well, let's talk about relaxation techniques.
Okay.
Things like deep breathing exercises or progressive muscle relaxation, even meditation.
Right.
They can be super effective in calming your mind and preparing your body for sleep.
Yeah.
And the best part is you don't need any fancy equipment or special training.
I've dabbled in meditation before and I found it really helpful for stress management.
Yeah.
But I never really thought about using it specifically for sleep.
Well, there are actually several types of meditation that can be really beneficial for sleep.
Okay.
For instance, there's mindfulness meditation,
Right.
which focuses on bringing your attention to the present moment without judgment, which
Yeah.
can help quiet those racing thoughts that often keep us up at night.
It's so true.
And then there's guided imagery where, you listen to a recording that guides you through these relaxing scenes or visualizations.
Oh, yeah.
And if you find it hard to quiet your mind, just focusing on your breath can be a simple but powerful way to shift your attention away from worries and promote that sense of calm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, what about, those pre-sleep rituals, those things we do to kind of wind down before bed?
Right.
Do those have any impact on sleep quality?
Oh, they absolutely do. Creating a relaxing bedtime routine is like crucial for good sleep hygiene.
Yeah.
It could involve, taking a warm bath, reading a book, listening to some calming music, or
Oh,
even just spending a few minutes journaling to get those thoughts out of your head. The
yeah.
key is to find what works for you and make it a consistent part of your nightly routine.
So consistency seems to be like a recurring theme here
Mm-hmm.
when we're talking about good sleep habits.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just what you do, but doing it regularly.
Exactly. Our bodies thrive on routine. And when it comes to sleep, establishing a consistent sleep schedule is one of the most important things you can do.
Okay.
So that means going to bed and waking up around the same time each day, even on weekends.
Okay.
I know it can be tempting to sleep in on Saturdays and Sundays,
Oh, it is.
but it can actually throw off your internal clock and make it harder to fall asleep on Sunday night.
Those weekend lions might not be as beneficial as we think.
Right.
So speaking of things we might want to reconsider, let's talk about those classic sleep disruptors. Caffeine and alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing you're not a fan of late night coffee or that pre-bed glass of wine?
Well, let's just say they're not my top recommendations for a good night's sleep.
Okay, fair enough.
Caffeine is a stimulant,
Right.
so it can interfere with your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Yeah.
And while alcohol might initially make you feel drowsy, it can actually disrupt your sleep later in the night, leading to those frustrating middle of the night awakenings.
I've definitely experienced that post-wine sleep regret.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up feeling groggy and anything but refreshed.
Exactly.
Now, what about exercise?
Yeah,
I've always heard that regular physical activity is good for sleep.
it is.
Is that true, or is it another one of those, like, sleep myths?
No, it's definitely true. Exercise is beneficial for sleep, but the timing is key.
Right.
Working out too close to bedtime can actually make it harder to fall asleep because it raises your body temperature and increases alertness.
Oh.
So ideally, you want to finish your workouts at least a few hours before bed to give your body a chance to wind down.
So those late night gym sessions might not be the best idea.
Probably not the best idea.
Are there any types of exercise that are particularly helpful for promoting sleep?
Well, gentle forms of exercise like yoga or Tai Chi can be very relaxing and help prepare your body for sleep.
Mhm.
And those practices often incorporate deep breathing and mindfulness techniques, which can further enhance their sleep promoting effects. Yeah.
And even just a leisurely walk in the evening can help clear your head and reduce stress, making it easier to drift off to sleep.
It's about finding that sweet spot between physical activity and relaxation.
Exactly.
Now, we've talked a lot about strategies for, improving sleep hygiene, managing stress.
Right.
But what about those cases where insomnia is caused by an underlying medical condition?
Right.
Is there anything people can do to kind of address those issues?
That's a crucial point. If you think your insomnia might be coming from an underlying medical condition, it's super important to see a doctor.
Yeah.
They can diagnose the problem and recommend the right treatment.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if someone's insomnia is caused by sleep apnea, treating the sleep apnea often resolves the insomnia as well.
So it's like solving a puzzle.
Exactly.
You find the missing piece and everything else falls into place.
That's a great analogy.
Now, earlier you mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia or CBTI.
As like the gold standard treatment for chronic insomnia.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about why it's so effective and what it actually involves?
Yeah, absolutely. So CBTI is it's a structured therapy approach that helps people identify and change those negative thoughts and behaviors that are contributing to their insomnia.
Okay.
So it's about retraining your brain and body to sleep better.
Interesting.
And one of the key components of CBTI is stimulus control therapy, which focuses on associating your bed with sleep and nothing else.
Okay, so no more working or watching TV or even reading in bed.
Right, exactly.
It sounds like creating boundaries is essential.
It is. The goal is to train your brain to see your bed as a sanctuary for sleep.
I like that.
And then another important technique is sleep restriction therapy,
Okay.
which might sound a little counterintuitive, but it's about actually limiting the amount of time you spend in bed to improve your sleep efficiency.
So if I'm spending hours tossing and turning, I might actually benefit from spending less time in bed.
You might. The idea is to consolidate your sleep and retrain your body to fall asleep and stay asleep more efficiently.
That's fascinating.
And then there's cognitive restructuring, which focuses on challenging and changing negative thoughts and beliefs about sleep.
So it's about addressing those anxieties and worries that keep us up at night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So CBTI helps you identify those negative thought patterns and replace them with more positive and realistic ones.
Okay.
It's about shifting your mindset and reducing that sleep-related anxiety.
It sounds like a very empowering approach.
It is.
It's not about relying on, medication or external fixes. It's about like equipping yourself with the tools and techniques to manage your sleep independently.
That's a great way to put it. CBTI is all about empowering people to take control of their sleep.
I love that. This has
Yeah.
been so insightful.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I'm starting to see insomnia in a whole new light,
Yeah.
Not just as a frustrating problem, but as a complex issue with a variety of potential solutions.
Exactly.
But for now, we need to take another quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll explore some of the latest research on insomnia and what the future holds for treatment and prevention.
Sounds good.
And we are back for the final part of our deep dive into, insomnia.
That's
We
right.
have covered a lot,
Yes.
causes, and even explored some really effective strategies for getting better sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want to shift gears a bit and talk about, the future. What's on the horizon when it comes to insomnia research and treatment? What's new and exciting?
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be in the field of sleep medicine because it's constantly evolving.
Oh, I bet.
One area that I find particularly fascinating is the role of technology in both diagnosing and treating insomnia. So we're seeing a rise in, wearable devices and smartphone apps that can track sleep patterns, monitor heart rate and breathing, even provide personalized feedback.
It's like having a sleep lab right on your wrist or in your pocket.
Exactly.
I imagine that data could be like incredibly valuable, not just for individuals, but also for healthcare providers.
It is. It is. It allows for more precise monitoring of sleep patterns, identification of potential triggers,
Mhm.
even the development of tailored treatment plans.
Wow.
It's all about moving towards a more personalized approach to sleep health.
I love that.
And speaking of personalization, there's also growing interest in the field of pharmacogenomics.
Okay, now pharmacogenomics,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty complex.
It is a bit of a mouthful.
Can you break that down for me in a way that even I can understand?
Imagine a future where sleep medications are custom tailored to your unique DNA.
Okay.
That's the potential of pharmacogenomics. It explores how, individual genetic variations can influence our responses to medications,
Oh, right.
including sleep medications.
Wow.
So this means doctors could potentially prescribe medications more effectively,
Right.
minimizing side effects, maximizing the benefits.
That sounds like something straight out of like a science fiction movie.
I know, right? It's pretty amazing stuff.
But beyond, technology and genetics,
Hmm.
are there any other like promising areas of research when it comes to treating insomnia?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot of excitement around non-pharmacological treatments for insomnia.
Okay.
One example is transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS.
BMS.
Yeah.
Okay, what is that?
So it's a non-invasive procedure that uses magnetic pulses to stimulate specific areas of the brain,
Okay.
the areas that are involved in sleep regulation.
So it's like giving your brain a little nudge in the right direction.
You could say that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Are there any like downsides or risks associated with TMS?
Well, it's generally considered safe when it's administered by, qualified healthcare professional.
Of course.
But like any medical procedure, there are potential side effects
Yeah.
like headaches or scalp discomfort.
Okay.
But it's important to talk to your doctor about the risks and benefits to see if TMS is a good fit for you.
Always wise to consult with a healthcare professional
Exactly.
before starting any new treatment.
Right.
What other non-pharmacological approaches are kind of showing promise?
Well, light therapy is another area that's gaining a lot of attention.
Oh, light therapy.
Yeah.
What is that?
So it involves exposing yourself to specific wavelengths